All right, now we've played with cut edge duotone. I even put in a layer here for the antlers, remember, of something totally different, which was kind of a rainbow of colors, and that would be what's called full spectrum color. And if we go, let's see, where was it? To here, you can see full spectrum colors when you add other colors into the local color. And I liked what that did because I wasn't happy with what the colors were like before in the antlers. But what if I want to try another type of duotone coloring? Not this cut edge, hard edge split between the lights and the darks, but instead a soft gradated edge. Well, that's actually really easy to do. It's very easy to soften edges in Photoshop and in painting in general. It's very hard to make a soft edge sharp. So I always work with sharp edges first, and then if I want to soften, this is what I do. I would take my duotone shades that I cut out, and I make a duplicate of it. I'm going to lock everything else. I think I had this on screen mode. Going to lock everything else. And now, on that duotone shades copy, I'm going to go up to filter and say blur, Gaussian blur, and take focus away. And as I do that, you'll see that it starts to soften those shadows, especially if I copy it on top of itself a lot. Okay, now the problem with blurring your coloring is that blur is going to go outside of the space, right? So if I turn off the shapes, it looks like that. And that's really cool looking. Looks like spray paint and airbrush, because I have different layers that are sharp. And now I have my duotone shade copy that's really softened, right? Like this. So if I turn off my original duotone shades, that's my coloring. That's really soft. And then I just turn on my local color underneath. And I can turn on some of these other highlight layers to soften it, and then my multicolored horns. And let's say I liked that. How do I clean it up easily without having to go in and erase? Well, I'm going to take all these different copy layers, which I made to make the gradation a little bit bolder. And I'm going to merge them together. Hold down Shift, and get all of the duotone shade copies. Do Command E to merge them all together. And then, very simply, I go to my inked spot vector with all the spaces filled in, and I select all the empty space around, and all the, holding down Shift, all these little empty spaces in between, and I'm just going to delete them. So kind of stencil it out, delete the negative space just on this blurred duotone, Gaussian blurred copy. Now generally when I'm working on a piece, I know exactly what I want from it, so I don't do all of these kind of different options. But by doing it this way, I can see what they all look like. So I've selected all of that, I go to my shades copy, I just hit delete, and it will clean it all up. See, nothing's now spilling over into anything else. But if I want a little bit of that, I still have a layer I didn't merge, but I think I don't want that. Right. Now I can be between the two. So this is full soft edge duotone. The local color is split into a light version and dark version. I can turn off that light version and just have the local color come through. but I like that. And then the dark version is subtly gradated. And I can choose to have that or this, cut edge. But I'm liking the softer edge. But what if I want something in between? Well, there's nothing to say I can't have both, and then just play with the opacity a little bit. You see, I have the sharp edge underneath, and I can just play with the opacity of my soft edge duotone. What makes it duotone is that the colors are split into a highlight and a shadow. Oh, it looks like I need to delete that little aspect. So let me go back up to this, select that space. Are there any others I missed? Right in there. You have to have a good attention to detail for these things. Any others? No. All right. Remember, I'm locking layers as I go, so I can only affect the layers I have unlocked. I can turn that off. I'm liking what that's doing for everything, and I can see how it looks on different background colors. So that's on gray, that's on black. The Christmas tree kind of shape isn't coming out so well in the black. It's kind of its own thing, but the negative space and the play with it is working well. Now what if I like duotone in some places or duotone soft edge in some places? Like I like that on the leaves here, on the tree, on the heads, and I like hard edge on other places. Well, then you just erase away selectively with your eraser tool. So for instance, I don't really like the hard edge in the antlers too much. But I do like that soft edge. So I'm going to unlock that for my antlers. And I'm going to select within them. And I'm just going to erase that duotone cut edge from that layer. Or if I just wanted a little bit, I'll undo that. I can erase it at a low opacity with maybe a softer brush like this, and just gently erase. So there's maybe a little bit of a hint of it, but not much at all, of those kind of stripes. So just the faintest hint of those hard edges in there to give it a little bit of texture. Because remember, when you print this, you'll see all those details. You want to feel like you're in control of each step. And the beauty of flatting your colors is that you can always just go to your flat color layer and select those directly as well, and then erase them away from whatever layer you need. So flatting your colors ultimately is just to make selections easier. All right, now we can play with some, well, that's actually kind of nice without the full spectrum. Now we can start to play with some other effects, some special effects if you like. So I already showed you how you can use a layer style to give yourself an outline. You can do a lot more with those as well to make your spot illustration really pop. I'll do it on a gray background just so you can see. Other effects I might want, a drop shadow. You know, to make it look almost embossed. And of course, I can play with all the settings for that. the angle, the blur of it, the spread of it, the distance, its blending mode, its opacity, just everything. And that will vary based on the background it's on. So on a black background, it doesn't do much because it's a dark drop shadow. But let's see. If I turn it off, the interior, drop shadow is pretty strong there. On white, let's see what it looks like. With the drop shadow, without. I can even give that drop shadow a color. So maybe a green. I can steal a color from myself. This kind of bluish green. Yeah, multiply makes the most sense, or darken. So that green kind of shades everything slightly at the edge, so it's just glowing a little bit. And that might help with my kind of Christmas tree illusion here. The other thing I might want are full spectrum colors. Not filling in with local color. So let me go back to these antlers, and let's do something even crazier than just the rainbow gradation, right? So I have this, but I can do more with that. If I select everything outside of it and then say select inverse, I'm just on that one layer, everything else is locked. I can paint with any colors I want. I'm going to do it soft edge because I like that better in the antlers, nice and big. And I can put some green, maybe low opacity little green hints in the antlers in some places. It's little highlights. And this is how you would do soft edge duotone. Without the whole, or cut edge duotone, without copying and adjusting, you can just paint directly. So you really need to explore and find a method you like. Digital coloring is just any coloring you do behind a real or implied outline. And then I can do some shadow tones, so maybe I take that purple and then I push that a little bit more bluish. And use that as a subtle, going to be kind of tie-dyed antlers, very festive. And then remember, I can go to my flats and select some of these other shapes. It might not even be on the duotone layer, but I want to paint them anyway. I am able to do that just by selecting from the flats themselves. And that's a little bit easier than selecting from the vector layer. You've done all the work, you might as well enjoy it. So paint shadows in these antlers behind, they're kind of bluish. And this gets us close to digital painting, which is what we'll be doing in a little bit. Okay, so all those multicultural colors, all those variations, I did that on a layer on top, which is what I suggest. So I can always just turn them off if I want to, or I can blend them in. Try different modes. Ooh, screen mode, that looks kind of pretty. Brightens them up. So now there's a little bit more to those antlers. They'll draw your attention a little bit better. And that should look especially good on the darker backgrounds. Okay, but remember, we're just trying to get a nice colored spot illustration here. Okay, so that is full spectrum color and